Hi everyone, Karen Lewis here, and I am here as a kind of an extension of our industry hour with mechanical engineering. And I am with one of our RPI grads, Christina Pacifico. She was supposed to attend the original industry hour, but something came up. And because she works at Tesla, and so many of our mechies strive to actually work for a company like that, we thought it would be a great opportunity to bring Christina back and kind of have a chat with her for everyone to view. So welcome, Christina. Like I said, she works for Tesla. Christina, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, like where you work or where you're from, actually, and where you're living and when you graduated? Um, Take it away.
Yeah, hi. First, I want to apologize profusely for not being able to make it last time. And so sorry. I'm excited that you guys got to hear from Michael and Vanessa.
Yes.
And um, and so I'm excited to share my side of the story as well. I do work for Tesla. I graduated in 2014 from RPI with a mechanical engineering degree, and I actually had a minor in sustainability studies. I was born in Texas, raised in Texas/Italy, and now I live in San Francisco with Tesla.
Awesome. So you mentioned you graduated with a Mechie degree. Can you tell us how specifically you got into manufacturing and discovered that was a passion of yours?
Yeah, so initially I decided to become a mechanical engineer because I wanted to learn what I believed would be the most foundational engineering principles. And I believe that from there I could branch out into anything more specific or just more specific topics from there. um, I figured that really my passion is always just opportunities to create more freely. And I felt that I had the most creative freedom knowing how things are made and then knowing how to make things, which then opened the opportunity to just foundationally as an engineer, I wanted to improve things, make things better. So really, I blame John Sesniak for my passion for manufacturing. It really started with initially having a hard time adapting to New York's weather and just college in general. And I found my happy place machining my train in John's engineering processes class. And then I realized that was kind of my window of opportunity to kind of go into knowing how to make things, knowing how things are made, and then it just from there got bigger, and I wanted to really dive into manufacturing.
That's awesome. And a lot of our students are actually in John's class this semester. So we've been getting a lot of feedback that it's a lot of fun. So again, that's where it began for Christina, guys. So um, moving forward, can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day function of your position and the industry you're in general?
Yeah, so I think to this day, Tesla has had trouble identifying itself. So some people identify it as a tech company, some identify it as an automotive industry, some identify it as an energy company, but regardless of how it identifies itself, all its products need to be designed and manufactured. So what's great is it's in several industries, but it still needs manufacturing. So I guess in general, to me, I see it as a manufacturing industry because that's what I'm most passionate about. But what's great here is it's an example to show that manufacturing doesn't fit in an industry. You can do it anywhere. As far as my day-to-day function, I've been now at Tesla for almost 4 years, and the answer to this question changes monthly. I actually started on the Model 3 powertrain, where my day-to-day involved helping install all the equipment and then ramping that equipment to produce what we're now showing as the 100,000 cars per quarter. And now actually I work on Tesla's new cell manufacturing team. It's a brand new team where we've actually brought in-house the design and manufacturing of the battery cell that goes into the battery pack. If you guys haven't seen the video on Battery Day, that's specifically a really exciting video. Check it out on YouTube if you want to see more details, but I'm specifically program manager in charge of making sure we develop the equipment and the process to make that product successful. So again, what's great there is this is another example of how Tesla decided to go into a totally different industry, but it still needs manufacturing, design, and processes. So it's a little bit about my day-to-day.
That's awesome. Thank you. Now, I know that if students were here with us, they would definitely ask you what it's like working for Elon Musk. So can you give us a little dirt on him?
Yeah, he's a lot of things. He's fun, exciting, crazy, scary, rewarding, and demanding. It can go on. I would say he gets very excited about projects, and he loves to come check out how things are progressing across all the projects. He visits regularly across all projects just to kind of see how things are going. Some fun dirt on him if you want. He has trigger words, so we make sure to stay away. We have a list of words not to use around him. One example is we can never use the word plan. So if anyone ever says something like, oh, we plan to incorporate that change, it sets him off, because in his head, why are we planning it when we should be doing it? So we are very careful about the word plan. I would say another funny secret about him is I think he needs to probably use some public speaking lessons. But otherwise, I think it's been a lot of fun and rewarding to work with him.
That's awesome. I will giggle every time I hear the word plan now. Um,
Yeah,
so can you tell us what's your favorite part of your job?
yeah. My favorite part of my job is several things. I think it's the opportunities are limitless. If I feel like something is not right or it's not working, I'm always empowered to do whatever I feel needs to be done to make it work. It may be a lot of work, but even if I believe I need to rip out a piece of equipment and get a new one, it's part of the culture to just do it and make it happen and make it right. I also love my team. I think it's such a high performing, powerful group of people, just a really fun experience to work with all the geeky, nerdy engineers out there that want to make things better and just want to continue progressing. So really fun, exciting group of people. I also would say I'm very thankful to be working for a company that believes in American-made manufacturing and automation. I get to play with the latest and greatest technology out there to make the best products, and it's all right here in America, which I think is super exciting and not very common. So very exciting to see. So I have a lot of favorites. I would say I also really appreciate Tesla's culture because it pushes first principle thinking, which I think I've alluded to a couple times with to our PI, but it's just understanding the concept that if you've seen it before and you want to compare, contrast, oh, like that's how it was done at my previous company. That's one of the big no-nos in just meetings as a whole. We really want to get back to the nuts and bolts and understand the physics behind why something was done a certain way, which then gives us the opportunity to just correct the design or the process from the very beginning. So if you guys have watched the Battery Day video, one of my favorite things on the cell design is we went to the very, very basic fundamentals of how a cell works to understand that our tab design, that's just regular cell design, is not going to work. So we were able to come up with the tabless jelly roll design, which goes back to the basics and understandings of engineering. And for that reason, we've been able to make a lithium-ion battery that's larger in size than ever, and it's more cost-effective within our manufacturing process. And all of that, again, was without looking at how cells are made today. It was more just going back to that first principle thinking.
I love it. Thank you. Now, Marie, my co-host, and I were both at RPI when you graduated, so we know that you went to GE upon graduation. And how and when did you decide that it was time to leave, and how did you choose your next employer? Can you tell us about what process what that looked like?
Yeah, so I joined GE to really get my feet wet in manufacturing, and I really enjoyed my time there. I got to apply old school manufacturing concepts, and really it's important to understand where manufacturing came from, which I think Sam Chapone has been drilling into people from day one, but I just really enjoyed being able to get my feet wet in that, and I got to install my first pieces of equipment, develop new welding and brazing processes. Overall, really lots of fun. But then I realized that sometimes the change can be fairly limited due to cost reductions. Also, older equipment always being in the way. It's hard to just yank out, 50 to 100-year-old pieces of equipment and start over sometimes. So it was more of my hunger for manufacturing, and like the development in manufacturing was growing. I didn't really look for it. I got a call from a recruiter at Tesla, and didn't really think too much about it. It was an opportunity to really land new equipment, help with the latest and greatest automation, and really, again, American made. And I think I thought about it a little bit, just because at this point, I became a full New Yorker because I was living in New York for 8 years. So more so about the move to across the country, but otherwise I don't regret it. It was more just having always that same vector inside of me, telling me how can I continue to improve what I set out to improve, which is I want to keep learning how to make things, learning how things are made, and improve that.
All right, so now we're going to talk about your college days. Can you tell us what your undergrad experience looked like? Did you do internships, join professional groups, or other extracurriculars? Students are always looking for recommendations of what clubs to join, so can you offer us some perspective on that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I loved the extracurriculars that were provided by RPI. To start, as I had mentioned before, John Sesniak, after I fell in love with making the train, I wanted to keep playing it around in the processes lab. So I asked John if I could become a teaching assistant. So I was able to do that throughout the rest of my my RPI experience. So very fun there to not only continue to have a hands-on opportunity with all the tools that are down there, but also lots of fun to hang out with anyone who came in during office hours and wanted to make any random parts or tools or toys or costumes. So lots of fun in the teaching assistant world. I also I was also an undergraduate. I did some undergraduate research. As I had mentioned before, I chose mechanical engineering as a foundational engineering, learn as much as I can about really what the foundation of engineering is. But I wanted to continue to see and branch out and understand like what aspects I cared about the most. So I did an undergraduate research. I had an opportunity with Professor Tomazawa. He was working with Corning on the glass behavior, some certain glass behavior opportunities. That was lots of fun, but I realized it wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be, because I kept asking myself, oh, how is this glass made, and what were the processes to make this glass? So then I I was super lucky to be able to work with Johnson Samuel on his micro mesoscale manufacturing research and development, and there it really clicked. It sometimes undergraduate research is where you can understand a more applied way of doing things, but also it's still very academic. So understanding the reasoning behind educating yourself or studying certain things more in depth. And so being able to go to a much smaller scale in manufacturing just made it even more exciting to me. So another really fun way to reinforce my love for manufacturing there. Formula hybrid, I also did. I dabbled a lot in it. I really never was the most interested in design. So a lot of times I was like, just give me whatever you want me to make, I'll make it. So I got to help with welding the chassis, little light machining here and there, some of the brakes, machining the brakes, and then I helped with, I did some light design on the steering system and machining the impact attenuator. So just lots of fun, just like playing with all aspects of the car. And actually I really enjoyed that because it was another way to understand that, you know, I loved the team, just the team environment, because no one's trying to compete with each other in formula teams. It's really everyone's working together for the same goal. So that not only reinforced that I loved being hands-on with manufacturing, but also that I loved just being on teams and just like working on those aspects. You mentioned also organizations. I did join SME, Society of Manufacturing Engineers, and actually I got some really good reading opportunities. And from there, I got to learn about a lot of cool opportunities to go to trade shows. I know it's really random, and actually I went to one in Toronto. It was called Backset Toronto, suggested by Sam Chapone too, and it was actually funny because most people didn't want to talk to me because I wasn't trying to buy their stuff, but it was just really fun to see the latest and greatest in the trade shows, just really, again, like other ways to branch out what I see and what's happening outside. And then I'm a very extroverted person and a people person, and sometimes just going to class and going back to your room it can get a little stressful. So I was a resident assistant. So there I got to have fun with just making cool events, opportunities, and just help connect people with more extracurriculars, because I realized that sometimes at RPI, it's really easy to just get into that groove of go to class, do your homework, hate your life, get some like late night dining, and then go to sleep. So I think there's just so many other ways to just like connect and just have fun. And I think that I guess this is my way of saying, you know, sometimes even ask your RA if there's anything going on, because it was also a selfish opportunity for me too, because the RA team gets connected to what's going on just on campus a lot easier. So I think it was just a fun way to just know what's going on and then like help spread the fun activities. And finally, I joined the RPI STEP team. That was because I wanted to do it. It was so much fun. I hope it's still alive. I really enjoyed it. It's just an organized, very structured way to dance, and I'm all about that. So it was lots of fun. And I guess overall, like, this is a very long-winded way of saying that I loved the opportunities that RPI gave to then either the extracurriculars were a way to branch out and really set the tone of what I still loved and what I wanted to learn. Also ways to apply things that I learned in class, but then also an opportunity to just have fun and just let loose and not feel like I'm just in some military school. So it's like just really, really about enjoying the ride.
seems like you maximized every experience and opportunity available to you, which I think is awesome. And I just want to dive a little bit deeper on one of the clubs that you mentioned because you said you were involved in the Formula Hybrid team. And, you know, we were talking about it, Marie and I, and she was saying how you had 2 years of like important manufacturing experience at GE, and recruiters were still asking you about your time with Formula Hybrid, which, in our opinion, implies that employers are looking at that. The extracurriculars are a big part of who you are. So we just wanted to know, do you feel your extracurricular activities played a role in your current role as president of Women of Tesla?
Yeah, so just to note too, like one thing is recruiting is a very interesting world. I know just to let everyone know, Tesla asked me for my SAT and ACT scores. They were not happy. I remember just laughing and being like, "Are you serious?" Like I was a 16-year-old kid who just didn't even know if I was gonna go to college. Like sometimes it's just I wouldn't get too hung up, on like what they're asking for. It's just like being able to reinforce what you're interested in, and also understanding, what how you fit. I'll say like what I understand is like with any of them, all the formula teams, design, build, fly. I don't even know what else. A solar team. Like basically, I think the main thing that's exciting about those is one, it's a fully volunteer type work. So I think it already shows huge character to the recruiters that people are trying to branch out and learn about things. So I think it's really it doesn't have to be formula, but I think it's just if people are branching out and trying to find ways to grow their own interests, it starts to be very clear on the resume. So in the case of Formula Hybrid, it was because it's easy for someone to say for Tesla, like, oh, she's into cars, but of course they asked me about it because I could just be the person that comes to the meetings and does nothing. But I think the point I'm trying to bring across is it makes such a huge impact to see that the passions and the interests that someone has, they're being pursued on their own, not just kind of following the path, if that makes sense. So, and I guess you asked me how it played a role in my current role as president of Women in Tesla. I guess it's a good point. Like in college you learn that, or I guess in college you should learn that there's more than just school or school work, and you realize that the fun in life is really about how you're just diversifying yourself and growing as a person. So like school shouldn't be your number one there. So I realized even like when I left school, I missed all my fun extracurriculars from RPI, and I remember, being pretty sad about it because I was working really hard. It wasn't fun for a while. It was just stressful. And then I realized that I was doing exactly what I had learned not to do in school, which was, have fun with other things. So, I joined a pottery class. I bought a motorcycle, started riding, started fixing that up, and then I guess a big one, which kind of goes back to how I was reaching out as an RA and as a STEP team member, was just I love being with people and helping people find their paths too. And so Women in Tesla is kind of that for me now, which is an opportunity to hang out and have fun with other excited women, or also help other women find their excitement and their passion, and then just enjoy themselves. And so similarly to my RA time, I get to put some fun events, albeit right now they're all online, but still fun events for us to talk and do some fun things together. And then our most recent development is we've started offering tutoring opportunities to people's children. So we have really fun Zoom calls, and if there's women that are better in chemistry or biology, they can do a 1-hour class for Tesla kids, kids of Tesla, and teach them something. So again, just a fun way to just look outside the work bubble.
I love that. I love that you're doing so much too. It sounds like fun. I want to do it. Um, so I'm not going to talk about anything fun right now because I'm going to talk about classes. But can you tell me specifically, like, the advisors in the hub get questions all the time about electives, free electives, Haas classes, stuff like that, um, where students don't know exactly what courses to choose. Do you have any recommendations, or maybe chose a path that worked out really well for you as a Mechie seeking employment after graduation?
Yeah. So there's several ways to use your course electives. One is to branch out, which I had mentioned a couple times. Two, it's to find some sort of relaxation outside of like the crazy mandatory electives. And three, I guess those are the main two. So I think I did both. So as mentioned again, like manufacturing was just #1 on my priority list. So it was pretty simple. It was ask Marie what all the manufacturing courses are in and what are offered, and go for them. So again, like if it's, oh, I want to become like a mechatronics like guru, then I would choose all the mechatronic classes that RPI teaches, and then again, I would probably find whatever research opportunities are available to help with mechatronics, as an example. Or so I guess in that sense, I would say if we're talking about manufacturing, I had so much fun. I actually did not go to Singapore for what do they call that? Uh, um,
Like study abroad, or?
Study abroad, yeah. Study abroad. I really wanted to study abroad, but I chose manufacturing processes and systems 1 and 2 over it, and I don't regret it ever. It was the most exciting class ever. We got to make 400 Ferris wheels and play with more manufacturing tools. So really overall, and then be with a very exciting team, because again, electives, sometimes you get to meet the people that are there because they want to be there. So much fun to just find the electives that fit what you're passionate about, and be with those people that are just as passionate, because sometimes it just cascades into other things. So yeah, very exciting there. So I think sometimes you just have to see what your courses look like. So if you're the kind of person that's trying to do 21 credits a semester, then I would suggest to do the fun course electives. In my case, coming from Texas, where we never talked about, well, back in the day, now I'm getting old, I guess. Back in the day, we never talked about just sustainability, how to recycle, the environmental impacts of certain activities. So I took the sustainabilities minor and those course electives to really have fun with something that I knew I had no idea about, and I think I should. Actually, that came from, this is why, so here's an example. Like one of my friends from Tennessee was also a teaching assistant for John, and we used to have our shifts together, and I remember him making fun of me for being super Texan and not understanding what what's out there. And actually, he kind of showed me the ropes on like, hey, you should probably take these classes, and that was fun, and I don't regret it at all. It was just again, like, I met people through my interests, found more excited people, and those excited people showed me some of their interests and their excitements, and again, I don't regret it. And if anything, it's made me a better engineer because I think twice before I do something that may have an environmental impact. I think about it even with designing equipment, like making sure that it doesn't affect um, the best way to have zero waste. So lots of really cool things came out of it. So again, like just do what you think it makes you most interested. Yes.
That's awesome. And we have a lot of students. Haas changed a little bit like last year actually, and students are easy to get. It's much easier for students to get minors. So we have a lot of students pursuing the sustainability minor. So I thought you'd be pleased to know that. Um, I'm going to move on a little bit to the downside of courses. You know, what like as a first year student, I think it's really prevalent that, you're going to have a course that you might struggle with, but you might have those throughout the career. Is there one that stood out to you that you struggled with at Rensselaer, and what what resources did you use to succeed? Or did you succeed?
Yeah. I struggled with thermals and fluids. I failed it twice. So through the charm, I was able to get that. I would say, um, first of all, I think it was the first class I ever failed. So it was my first, it was one of the first classes I ever failed. I think it was very early in my RPI years, and I think in a sense I hit rock bottom because we're so used to focusing on the success in classes. So I think that it just, I got to the point where I was like, I don't think I can be an engineer. Like I can't even get, I mean, physics two, I did horribly. Like I barely made it through physics two. And I remember hearing like, oh, like if you can't even get through physics two, how are you going to be an engineer? And like there's just a lot of interesting, I guess what I'm trying to say is I realized that I had to take control of how I learned things because I use physics 2 on a daily basis now. So I'm sure if I go and take the course now, I could probably get an A, or I probably won't because sometimes it's just the way things are said, or like even the test question, it doesn't even, I guess my tactic was first I learned to decouple my success and my passion from results coming out of some of these classes to an extent. I mean, of course, you don't want to fail out of college, but it's about just learning from the experience. For thermals and fluids specifically, I think I went through 3 different teachers also. So I would say that was another big one, but then I also realized, going to office hours, really trying to understand the principles and what was being said more than just memorizing what was in the book. Like there was a lot of just switching the way you learn. And again, like I think that was another big tactic to me was I learned how to learn more so than some of the fundamentals in a lot of ways. And I think that was what I thought was more exciting because the fundamentals started to click after I started getting more into my extracurriculars, and it just complemented each other.
Awesome. Thank you. And just so Meckies know, and Christina, we recently had a curriculum change. So when Christina's referring to thermal and fluids, it's now a two course series of fluid mechanics and thermodynamics. So just point of reference there. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I would say that's going to help for sure.
So, another thing that students often ask us about is like master's degree. and professional licensing, MBAs, all of that. Do you have any perspective on that? Do you make any recommendations? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I would say if it fits with what you're trying to do, then yes, absolutely. And then sometimes, especially with the master's in engineering, what is great is it's a 1 year thing. So sometimes if you didn't feel like you accomplished what you needed to accomplish in college, then yeah, like do a master's degree. I know that some of my friends ended up doing the master's in engineering because they finally started to gel with their undergraduate research opportunity, or they started to realize that they found out a little bit later what they were really excited about, and so there was a couple more classes they wanted to take. So I'll say, like, again, like there is no right or wrong answer with masters. It's really what works best for for what you're trying to do. So it's whatever works. And then for like professional engineering licenses, I would say um, I would say it really depends. Like I've always wanted to do them just because it would be fun to have those under my belt. But I'm also realizing now in the industry, really no one cares. So, but again, like it depends on the industry. It's like the industry I'm in, it's not always the most useful. However, like in architecture or in civil engineering, I would say it's it's important because it kind of also just drives how important it is to be ethical and how important it is to think about what you're making and how it impacts people. So I'll say, like, again, like read the situation and understand if it works. But that's how I see it for professional licenses. I started my MBA at University of Albany actually while working, and unfortunately haven't been able to finish yet. But I would say as an engineer, I loved it because it was another way to look at the world and look at how to affect the industry, because there's just so many other aspects to it. So I would say, again, it's personal preference, like whatever you think works best and whatever you're excited about. Don't do it for the resume. I will say that. Don't do it for the resume. No one cares. Do it for you. If you cannot stand school, don't do it. If you are doing it because there's stuff that you're missing or you want to have fun with it, do it.
I love that too. I I think that's great advice. Um, Speaking of advice, do you have any for students who are currently pursuing internships? It's starting earlier and earlier, and I think it's a good thing, but let us know your perspective on that if you could.
Yeah, internships are great. I would say try and get into them as much as possible. I unfortunately wasn't the most, like, I didn't get too many hits or likes with internships. Um, it's just what happened. No worries. I did get an awesome internship with St. Gobain Abrasives, making sandpaper. So that was so much fun. I think also, again, the difference between an internship and all the other extracurriculars I mentioned is it's it's like real life. It's an opportunity to really understand real life, and again, like drive whether yes or no you'd be into it. So for me, when I ended up at St. Gobain Abrasives, it was like, oh, absolutely, I need to get into manufacturing. So it's again another way to get involved. I would say to pursue them, sometimes it's really about keeping your eyes and ears open on ways to get involved. You know, don't despair if you're not getting any. Again, like I got my first internship my last summer, so junior into senior year. Like sometimes I know, I'm sure a lot of people get, even on your freshman through to sophomore year, when you go to those career fairs, they don't even look at you sometimes, and that's okay. I mean, some of my summers I spent them just taking classes or just doing more undergraduate research, or like having ways to get my feet wet in different ways. So I'll just say do all the same things that you hear from all the career advice teams, but don't despair if it doesn't happen. Just, yes. Another thing too, I think co-ops are great. I'll just say, watch out. Sometimes with co-ops, companies get a little too excited to have an extra pair of hands, so they'll keep asking you to extend and extend. I know we do it at Tesla, and I feel so bad. Do what's right for you. Again, so with co-ops, only extend if it makes sense for you. Like, even if things get intense at whatever job you're co-oping at, don't, because sometimes it can be more stress when you get too deep into it. So just another little tidbit.
Thank you. I would never think about that, but that's good advice too from an employer perspective, you know. Um, so I have only a couple more questions for you, Christina. One of them is flashing all the way back to first year. What would be something that you wish you knew as a first year college student that you know now?
Now is more important than I realized. If it's still a class, it was modeling and analysis of uncertainty. I actually ended up taking extra classes on the side as a fully employed human, because as much as that class was boring, I think I use that so much. Like, statistics are so important. So I'll just say that's one little thing I learned. So keep that in mind. I don't know. I think that's just one small one. I don't have too many other ones for what I wish I knew. Honestly, I think I had a good learning experience for the 4 years, because I had learned what's more important, which was that it's a journey, and that it's like, I'm not going to have everything figured out. I think this is said a lot, but like the job you're studying for, by the time you get to the job, you're basically already expired with your knowledge. So I think that's another thing too. Like, again, why I don't want to say that I wish I learned some things. Like, for example, now being in automation, I think coding and just knowing more languages like MATLAB, Python, C, C++, basically just like the fundamentals of coding. It's like we're getting into such a digital world that I wish I had done a little more. It wasn't as popular or talked about back then, but again, I don't regret it because I learned it. And again, what I got the most out of college was that I learned how to learn. So I can just go on YouTube. Again, we're so lucky with where we are today. I can go on YouTube, watch a bunch of things on how to code in Python, and then I'm okay. So I wish I knew I was more woke back then about this.
It's great. I guess the bottom line on that is to continue to learn, regardless of what you're doing and where you are. I want to thank you for coming today virtually with us. It was really good to see you, and also to hear your stories. It sounds like you had an amazing journey in college, and I wish you the best in the future for whatever journey and pathways it takes you to. Um, I'm pretty much done. I just wanted to ask you if you had any closing thoughts. But again, I want to thank you, Christina, for your time, and we all really appreciate you sharing some inside dirt with us too.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, just in closing, really, I think it's have fun with it. I know that I got very intense too in college. There was times where, again, I didn't think I could make it, but it's just once I started having fun with it, it was great. Focus on learning how to learn and just doing what you want to do that makes you happy, even if it's as simple as just, I mean, it can be very simple and then it grows into something bigger. Um, don't get focused too much on the grades. I think that if the company cares about that so much, then maybe it's not the company for you. I know I also, around the same time that Tesla contacted me, SpaceX contacted me, and they asked me for my, at this point, I had been in the industry for 3 years, and they asked me for my GPA, and it had to be above 3.9, and I said goodbye. So I think it's also just knowing but however, I guess not to discredit all the hard work, like people that have these awesome GPAs, like it's so awesome. It means you get it. It means you get the fundamentals. So like again, like that's a different path. Like if you learn best by what's in class, then that's totally different. So I guess again, it's just do what you want to do, not what someone else tells you to do, or what you think is the right thing to do. Because the right thing to do is what you want to do.
Perfectly said. Thank you again. And I want to thank everybody who's viewing this. We're going to post this on the internet, on YouTube, and we hope that if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to their hub advisor, and we might contact Christina in the future if you guys have questions for her. So feel free. Thanks again.